And through the drifts the snowy cliffs did send a dismal sheen, nor shapes of men nor beasts we ken, the ice was all between. Rakdos players, there's a new card in town, Lightning Skelemental, from Modern Horizons, coming out in a couple of months. It is a creature that's a skeleton elemental, black, red, red, 6/1, trample, haste. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this, just like Ball Lightning. It also has the Blightning sort of ability. Whenever this deals damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards. It's half Ball Lightning, half Lightning. I love this. I played Ball Lightning since the Dark for about 10 years. And this is just a callback to Ball Lightning. And how do I start making this video? Well, I got into an argument with Retro Nerd. I watched this excellent video by MTG Goldfish, Saffron Olive. I think Rakdos is underplayed in general. I keep wondering, with all these Gen players in Modern switching to black-green, why there aren't more cutting green for black-red. Keep in mind, there's no more Deathrite Shaman anymore in Modern. It got banned. It was a 1-mana Planeswalker, and it was too good for Jund. It canceled out the bad things that happened by playing Bob, Dark Confidant. And if you look at green, Jund uses Scavenging Ooze and Tarmogoyf. And this is a non-bow. Tarmogoyf's power and toughness is equal to the number of card types among types in both players' graveyards. And Scavenging Ooze removes cards from those graveyards, and I've always hated this. Scavenging Ooze doesn't beat Living End. It's a minor graveyard hate at best. And decks these days, like Is It Phoenix, needs major card graveyard hate in order to be destroyed. So players are sideboarding in more graveyard hate in metagames, like Rest in Peace, like Relic of Progenitus, which makes Jund a worse deck and makes Tarmogoyf a worse card. And if Scavenging Ooze and Tarmogoyf is a non-bow, why are we playing green in Jund? A lot of players cut red in Jund in order to play green-black for that new 4/4 creature for green-black. Just going back into the Rock's roots with Spiritmonger and Pernicious Deed. But playing this combo is the same excuse as using American Control. It's called Jeskai Control now, that Khans of Tarkir is out. But Jeskai Control used Mana Leak and Path Exile. It was a top-tier metagame deck, just like Jund. And it makes no sense. The entire deck is a card advantage, mana advantage engine. The point of Jeskai Control is to play Cryptic Commands, then Snapcaster your Cryptic Commands, then play a God, draw 2 cards every single turn, and you're throwing this whole thing away with playing Path and Mana Leak. You're giving your opponent a basic land with Path Exile, so your opponent can pay for the Mana Leaks that are in your deck. And I think as a player base, as an audience, you should be able to do better than Scavenging Ooze Tarmogoyf. If you look at powerful green decks in the past, back in the God days, Theros, Mono Green Devotion was a deck that relied on like turn 5 wins with an immense amount of mana thrown into Genesis Wave. And you could Genesis Wave for your quarter of your deck, grab some more Garrux, untap 2 lands. One of them, of course, is your legendary land that adds mana for each devotion you have. Get an infinite amount of mana, draw most of your deck, and your opponent would just concede. He would use these cards like Selkies for 3 green or 3 blue. Comes into play, draw a card in order to get Devotion. Garruk would have Devotion. And people asked, why not just play Tooth and Nail? Tooth and Nail, I played against it in Mirrodin Standard, Mirrodin Kamigawa, and the combo is it wins turn 5, and through mirrors and mana ramp. And it uses Mephidros Vampire Triskelion. And Mephidros Vampire is a black creature that whenever one of your creatures deals damage, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And Triskelion is a card for 6 mana. You can remove a +1/+1 counter on it to do damage. So it's infinite damage to all of your opponent's creatures. Your opponent scoops, GG. And that is a standard deck, and people are playing modern decks with the exact same speed. They're not playing Tooth and Nail. They're playing Genesis Wave instead. And I think like we as a people need to figure out how to make better Magic the Gathering decks. It was fun for a month or two playing Mono Green Devotion. But just because a deck wins more than it loses doesn't mean we can't keep thinking about better Magic the Gathering decks. And as brewers, I'm calling out all of you to build a Rakdos deck. And I'll give you some pointers. So the other new card we have is Dreadhorde Butcher. Just like the Slith Firewalker from Mirrodin. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So it's like a better Slith. It's in Rakdos colors. It's in War of the Spark. You combine that with Lightning Skelemental. Surely we can put together a meta Rakdos deck. So what happens if you cut green? You get space in your deck for Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek. You don't have space for green. You get enough space for your deck for Terminate, and you get space in your deck for Dreadbore. Keep in mind, red is the best color for sorceries, and black is the best color for destroying things. For 2-for-1s, you can have Wrench Mind. Target player discards 2 cards. It's not as good as Hymn to Turok. They will never print Hymn to Turok in Modern Horizons. People have been joking about it. They'll never happen. You still get Bob from Ravnica City of Guilds. I was going to buy Bob when it went down to $13, and it's still going down in Magic the Gathering Online. So you could play Dark Confidant in a budget Moto deck. Blightning was a card that was almost good enough for Modern. The trick was you would Bloodbraid Elf, cascade it into Blightning. And your opponent would discard 2 cards, take 3 damage, and get hit by a 3/2 hasty. Yeah, it gave people the giggles. It's not that good enough, but if you throw in Lightning Skelemental, maybe it is. Or maybe there's room enough in the deck for Lightning. I don't know. A lot of players these days are using Kolaghan's Command just because the same Fire Ice excuse. Fire Ice has versatility. You can choose either fire mode or ice mode. Kolaghan's Command is better than Fire Ice. It's got 4 modes. And you get to choose 2 of it. It's either Raise Dead or a discarded card spell like a Duress, or it's a Shatter, or it's a Shock. And I mentioned a lot of spells, but you could even take a page from Scred Red's book and play Goblin Dark Dwellers. And Goblin Dark Dwellers, you can cast instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its casting cost. So you could cast like a Blightning, just like a Bloodbraid Elf could. You still get Lightning Bolt from Jund. It's still an amazing card. It was so powerful, it wasn't printed for years between 4th edition and Magic 2010. I haven't listed many good creatures, but keep in mind, just because there isn't many good Rakdos creatures doesn't mean you should despair. I love the Wrath of God Gambit, which is basically do nothing and just make all your land drops, and then turn 4 Wrath of God, wipe your opponent's board. And sometimes it makes your opponent concede. If your opponent's playing like goblins or merfolk, your opponent could just scoop just from that. You can go super spice, since I just named tons of instants and sorceries. There's Charmbreaker Devils. I played it in Duel of the Planeswalkers. I think a lot of players forget about it, but it's card advantage. For a long time, you can play Chandra Torch of Defiance. People have compared Chandra Torch of Defiance from Kaladesh to Jace the Mind Sculptor. It's got 4 abilities, just like Jace the Mind Sculptor. And it's a long-term card advantage. You can draw 2 cards every single turn. And if your ultimates, your opponent just scoops. Keep in mind, Black-Red was used to be called a hate deck. Before, it was called a Rakdos deck. Before Ravnica City of Guilds was an expansion, Red-Black was meant to just destroy everything. And there's excellent cards for that now. Molten Rain is still a card. It's better than Stone Rain. because it can destroy a land or a non-basic land, and if it's non-basic, it can do 2 damage to your opponent. There's Fulminator Mage, and it's both in Rakdos colors. I've been seeing this card in Jund, and it has to deal with tons of non-basic lands in order to play Fulminator Mage, to avoid getting like too many like green man lands or something. If you're playing Rakdos, you don't have to worry about color problems with Fulminator Mage because it's naturally Rakdos. You can put this in main deck or sideboard. And keep in mind, Lava Claw Reaches just got an Ultimate Masters box topper, and it's the cheapest box topper out of all Ultimate Masters box toppers. So if you like the green manlands in like Treetop Village and Jund, you can put in Lava Claw Reaches into Rakdos, and it'll feel just like Jund. Yeah, it's super cheap. Jund used to play Olivia Voldaren back in Innistrad Ravnica Standard, the modern version of Jund. Olivia Voldaren, this used to be on a 7-mana creature, Shivan Hellkite, which is a 5/5 flying for 7 mana. It's got the Shivan Hellkite ability for only 4 mana. So it can blow up your opponent's board, and it can get completely huge, and it can win the game by itself, just kind of like the Morphling in your deck. So everyone should start playing Rakdos. I dare everyone to build a Rakdos deck that is on par with Jund or Black-Green and play it. Thanks for watching. Friends, Wall of Ice Cream has a Facebook page. Check it out and send your fan mail to Gmail or ideas for new content. And see my previous videos at Dioshlet, not in Wall of Ice Cream yet. Getting to 100 subscribers and I'll change it to Wall of Ice Cream. Or you can come play with me on PlayStation. My username is Wall of Ice Cream, and see me on Twitch, Wall of Ice Cream. I might be there on Sundays. Thanks for watching.